This is something you don't see every day. The chance to actually see snowflakes in Central Florida is going up a little bit. It's overall still pretty low, but it's going up, certainly relative to what we would typically see. What we're looking at here is a product from the National Weather Service that highlights the percentage of wintry impact. And you see parts of Central Florida here are covered by it. So let's go to the map. We're going to bust out the telestration, and then I will show you the future radar that does show snowflakes late Saturday into Sunday moving through Central Florida. So what these numbers correlate here, this blue color represents greater than 20% shot for wintry precip getting into Central Florida. That would include Sumter County. This greater than 5% line extends all the way to Claremont, just to the west of Kissimmee and into Lakeland for the chance for wintry precipitation. That is because of Gulf effect snow. What is that? We're going to get into that in a couple of minutes as well. There's also a small probability on the East Coast to see some flakes or a wintry mix. That is going to be brought on by a different mechanism. We're actually have an area of low pressure tried to develop. I think the chance for some flakes or a wintry mix on the East Coast is not zero, but it's much, much lower than the mechanism to give us the potential anyway for a wintry mix or some flakes along I-75, Claremont, west of Winter Garden in Orlando. Here we go. This is the future radar. So we have the big cold front coming through. This arrives Saturday into Sunday. As the rain is moving through early in the day on Saturday, still far too warm. That's the main moisture source. That's the main lifting mechanism. Look at this before lunch. There's already some blue popping up. That indicates the light snow potential there right along the Big Bend. It expands, though, as we get deeper into the afternoon. So this is 7 o'clock on your Saturday evening, and we legit, the model showing two bursts of flurries here through Sumter County, getting into Polk County, getting into Pinellas, Hernando County as well, mainly to the west of Orlando. And watch what happens as we go forward. We see even more of it coming through, especially towards Tampa, Bradenton, St. Pete, maybe to Sarasota, as we get some moisture back off the Gulf. You see here, there's not much going on. I think the low pressure develops way too far to the north and east to get any of that moisture to come back into the cold air on the Atlantic side. It's not zero, but certainly, again, the better chance to see some flakes is going to be on the west side of the Florida Peninsula. Again, all in all, it's still a pretty low chance, but it's about the highest potential you're going to get. So this is going to be as we get in towards midnight. So what's actually happening here? Just like how you get lake effect snow, you get the very cold air going over the relatively warm lakes. It helps to generate lift, generate instability, and then that's how we get the moisture and the clouds and eventually the precipitation, in this case, a wintry mix or snow, to develop. And you kind of see that here, how everything's kind of in these almost streets over the Gulf, certainly too warm out over the Gulf waters. But again, as that colder Arctic air goes over the warm Gulf, it induces that lake effect or Gulf effect process to help give us some of the moisture that we otherwise would not have as that big blast of drier air comes back in behind our Arctic cold front that delivers us the coldest air that we have felt since 2010. So it could be a pretty remarkable weekend for the weather. First and foremost, even if it's just the cold, but there is the opportunity, a legit opportunity for some flakes in Central Florida. So just pretty much change everything that says lake effect and just put ocean effect or Gulf effect snow here. But I wanted to show you the actual principle here. Basically, you have that warm, relatively speaking, warm Gulf water, and then a very cold air mass. And we do. You need to have a certain degree of difference between that air mass and the water. It's 13 degrees Celsius. We have it much, much different than that. And then that helps to generate the instability. So the wind is going to push that colder air mass out over the Gulf. As that happens, we start to get that air to rise. You generate lift because when you get the cold air on top of the warm lake or warm Gulf, it starts to create that instability. You get air to rise and you generate the moisture that way. And that is key in this sense because we know how dry the air is going to be behind the cold front. And then eventually you get that colder air mass, that more moist air mass, that cold air mass to move over land, and then it can produce precipitation if it's cold enough, a wintry mix or snow. Yeah, that's a little aggressive. We're not going to see accumulation on here, but this is just to illustrate how this process is going to happen. And yes, the air is going to be super dry, but we have a mechanism on the Gulf side to reintroduce moisture back into the colder air. That's really something we're going to lack on the east side. If the low east of Florida develops a little closer than anticipated, it could send back a little bit moisture into the colder air, and we could get that wintry mix or some snowflakes to develop as well. I think that chance at this point is much lower. But as I mentioned at the start of this, I really do think west of Orlando, there is a legitimate chance to see some snowflakes Saturday evening into early Sunday morning, courtesy of Gulf effect snow.